Welcome to Berita Satu English. I'm Bhimanto Suwastoyo and you're watching Perspective. Today we have our guest, a couple of guests actually, are one from the European Union, Ambassador Olof Skog, and one from Sweden, Madam Johanna Brisma Skog.
Correct.
God, I'm very bad with names. Welcome to our studio, actually. Thank you for coming here.
Thank you.
We will be discussing about EU, Indonesia, about Sweden, Indonesia. But before that, I want to make a small statement to this. It is very rare that you have, when I say a couple of ambassadors, it's really a couple. Madam and Mr. Skog. EU, we'll start with EU first, if we can. We had a partnership agreement signed like 2009, and I think it entered in May.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What has it done so far?
Well, first of all, on your point about the couple of ambassadors,
right?
You know, the EU role, my role here is actually to try to coordinate the 28 EU member states that are here, and it works really well with most of them. Of course, I have a little bit of a challenge with Sweden right now, because it's not so easy to coordinate your own wife, as most would know.
I sympathize.
But on your question about the partnership agreement, this is a reflection of the changing and the evolution of the relationship between Europe and Indonesia, one which has been very much dominated by development cooperation in the past. You know, the EU has really supported Indonesia very much the last 10, 15 years in terms of its democracy, its economic development. And we still do. There's still a lot of things going on that score. But we're very much changing the relationship into one where we are partners. You know, we look at, and this is part of the partnership agreement, to look at how can we together work on dealing with some of the global challenges that we are both confronted with, be that climate change, you know, the new maritime challenges that this government has identified, a typical area where we can do things together. And
it's
also
actually very broad.
It's very, very broad, and it's a little bit what both of us agreed to put into it. But it's just a symbolic reflection of the maturity of the relationship, and that we are both global actors that are out there to deal with the common problems in a joined-up fashion.
What is it? A legal framework? An umbrella for cooperation?
It's a legal framework. It's been ratified by Indonesia in the parliament, and also by all the 28 member states of the European Union. So that's sort of the umbrella. And now we're still discussing a little bit, what do we put into it? You know? And we've already started very intense dialogues on various issues. But it's work in progress, which is good, because we have new leaders here. We also have new leaders in Brussels.
EU as well.
So we can, you know, make sure that it reflects the new modern agenda of leaders here and leaders there.
Sweden also has a MOU to strengthen bilateral cooperation with us, no?
We have several different MOUs and letters of intent, etc. We have one which I think is very important, which is on sustainable urban development.
Oh, so it's on a typical,
it's a very specific topic,
right.
yes, where we work with Indonesia, with the different ministries, some of the cities and townships, to see where we can benefit from our urban development, technology, especially when it comes to environment, sustainability, etc. But also where we can learn from you and have interesting solutions. No, but
that takes me aback. Learn from us.
No,
okay.
but there are so many areas. You know, the tropical climate here is very interesting for researchers to study, to see what's happening. How does this affect the solutions that we're providing, and how can we use the technology that you are developing here to bring back to Sweden, and maybe to bring back to other parts of the world too.
Does it work better to specify on particular fields, for example, or rather start on a broad, like I say, avenue with a lot of possibilities in between?
Well, we're part of the EU, so we're part of this. What
true.
you're doing, so
true.
We're under the framework and the partnership agreement, and we work very closely with the EU, both here and in Brussels, of course, on that.
But I suppose there is a difference, because many countries have their, you know, in the EU have their special strong areas, right, where they are very advanced. It makes sense for them to work specifically on those areas. Whereas on the European Union level, some of that is more on a broader scope. For instance, when we talk about trade, we're in discussions whether we shouldn't, you know, enter into to have a like a free trade agreement, a comprehensive economic, and that would be on the EU level, because the advantage for Indonesia to sign with the EU is that you reach the 500 million consumers of the European Union instead of going with each country by itself. So there is a difference.
Are we working on that preferential, what is it?
We call it a comprehensive economic partnership agreement.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. But again, we have new leaders here, new leaders in Europe, and I'm trying to now, make sure that we enter into a restart. We look again at this, and we try to move and get some new energy into that relationship on trade, because there is a lot of untapped potential.
What would be the difference with an FTA, for example?
Well, if I talk to European business here, they complain a little bit about their high import barriers for very many European products.
Operational costs.
And for sure, Indonesia too pays some quotas and taxes and customs for some of the things that you want to export to European Union. And all of that could, be negotiated in a way where we really promote trade and we remove some of these costs
barriers.
Barriers. So I think there's just a win-win for both.
Okay. We will talk more about this later. Unfortunately, we have to break, so please stay with us.